as it pertains to anything that's not just core banking. In Europe, they came up with this concept of open banking. How do I allow a consumer to use their bank account and the data within that bank account outside of the bank's four walls? In the US, we had some very basic provisions related to open banking, but Europe came out with very clear structures, very clear rules that required banks to build APIs, to serve data to consumers when the consumers wanted it. And we saw this explosion of neobanks and fintech applications in, call it 2015, 2016, 2017, in a way that in the US, we just didn't see that for a while. So I think the clarity and specificity of the regulation was a big boon to European fintech. And these days you see like the largest neobanks in the world are companies like Revolut, which grew quite quickly in Europe. Also in South America, you saw Nubank come and just have this amazing growth trajectory. In the US, there's always whiplash on our financial services regulations, both in terms of open banking, but also in terms of things like bank charters and giving access to neobanks to the tools they need to build. Do you think there are more banks in the US now than there were 5 years ago? Okay. And they're not, federally chartered banks or state chartered banks, but we're seeing this explosion of neobanks, this explosion of fintech companies. So if you consider the concept of the bank to have a charter, yes, there are less, because it's really freaking hard to get a charter. But if you consider the concept of a bank to being a place where I can store my money, a place that issues me maybe a debit card, a place that I can write a check from, and a place that I can pretty frequently trust to have my money in the right place, then we're actually seeing this explosion of neobanks come up. And so actually we're seeing more banks as opposed to less. That said, there should be bank consolidation. I grew up, as I said, small town North Carolina. You go to every small town, there's a different bank. That bank probably doesn't have a website. Oftentimes doesn't have that good of a consumer app if they have one at all. And many of those, yes, they should be consolidated. It actually makes a lot of sense to bring on a technology platform and make it a lot easier for their users. So I think consolidation in some sense is a good thing for the industry, but I don't think we're looking at the right numbers.
Do you think?
I think there's a big piece of this that's regulatory. I think there's a big piece of it that is just industry structure. So we have a lot of big banks that have a lot of power, those banks probably wouldn't love a totally new set of entrants coming into the space. The American consumer is interesting though. Historically, the way that the American consumer lived their financial life was you grow up in a small town, you have one bank in that small town, you get every single financial product from that one bank, and it's oftentimes a birth to death type of banking relationship. These days though, people don't do that. They don't stay in the same small town, they move around a lot, people travel, they use the internet for all sorts of things. And consumers want variety and choice in the financial applications and the financial products that they use. In fact, we talked about putting the loan on the internet. Instead of having just one bank that only gives you one loan option, today if I want to go get a mortgage, I can go get 5 mortgage offers in a day. Just by going online, using Rocket Mortgage, using any other of these mortgage aggregators. And what am I going to do? I'm going to comparison shop. I'm going to see which one has the best rate, the highest loan amount, or whatever features I'm looking for. I'm going to be able to find that really quickly, and there will be competition. And so we live today as Americans very fragmented financial lives, but most people actually really appreciate it. So consumers these days, they like the fact that you can use Robinhood to make investments because it gives them certain investing options. They like the fact that they can sign up for Coinbase and buy a Bitcoin because their bank might not support buying a Bitcoin. They like the fact that they can go out and find the best mortgage offer for them. And so we've actually seen increasing fragmentation in the financial system. Consumers today are using 8 or 10 apps to manage their financial life as opposed to one banking relationship. And I think this is net very good for consumers because they're winning. They're getting access to better tools at a cheaper price.